We are talking Delphi, the murder of Abby and Libby, and Richard Allen's court proceedings, okay?
Yeah.
The removal of his defense, because let's be honest, they didn't actually step down. They were forced to. We read through all of the documents on stream, word for word. If you're interested in going and looking at that, or if you're an audio listener, it will be on our other podcast channel, which is the True Crime Talk Show. We read through all of it and dug into it and talked about it, so I don't feel like it's needed for me to go through all the details, but a quick rundown is basically Attorney Rossi calls out the judge and says, look, you put us in between a rock and a hard space where you said, the judge, prior to the hearing, the emergency hearing that happened recently, that she took them in her chambers prior to the court proceedings, and they had a discussion where she laid out all of these things that she had issues with them, their negligence, okay, in their defense.
Negligence.
Right. And she then says that you guys can either step down now, or you can go out into the courtroom in front of the nation, because there's cameras in the courtroom today, and all the police officers in the jury box, the prosecution, and your client and his family members, and all the victims' family members, and be basically shamed.
Not basically,
be removed,
literally.
Be removed, disqualified from the case, and be publicly shamed. So, naturally, they stepped down. Baldwin had actually gotten a lawyer, his lawyer Hennessy, which there was no money exchange, by the way. Hennessy offered to do this for him. Write a memo that morning explaining the leaks, okay, because recently there were crime scene photo leaks that went around.
Happened under his watch.
Yep, they happened on his watch in his office. They were stolen from his office, and he explained how that happened, how they've made changes, and why he should be on the defense team. Then we have this shock of her saying that, you know, they were stepping down. Well, Baldwin actually did verbally say, I'm stepping down. Rossi did not. He said he was going to write up something later. So he never officially stepped down ever.
Correct.
Instead, he wrote these documents calling her out, telling us what actually happened in those chambers, all the things that she said she had issues with, which were really... It wasn't okay for that to be an issue with her. Her issue was needing to control the defense.
Yeah, and that is not okay. And what's interesting, one thing that I think you forgot to add in there is when she gave them this ultimatum, and like, let's just cut off like all the court talk. When she threatened them, they said, look, we need to think about this. We need time. And I believe he wanted to call his attorney, and she said no.
Right.
You tell me here and now, this is what's happening.
Yes. And
wild. What?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
All because these supposed crime scene photo leaks. And I have heard from lawyers all over the internet saying this is not normal.
No.
Even if there is a leak of information, normally lawyers are not taken off the case. They're not removed for something like that. The, rapport, the relationship they've built with their client is important. They don't want to delay cases anymore. Like, there's other things that are more important, and there's ways to fix the issue and continue, which I strongly feel that could have been done here. This judge clearly has a bias against these defense lawyers, and I think it's all because of that memorandum with the Franks motion talking about the Odinist cult.
Yep.
And against Richard Allen, which I think makes her, which Rossi's also alleging in these documents, not qualified to be over this case any longer, and he wants her removed or her to step down. Well, now, you're caught up. You're caught up now.
Yep.
Now we have new documents where she says that she's taking no action. This is what it says. Court notes filing from former Attorney Rossi on October 25th, 2023. and takes no action. Attorney Rossi withdrew from this matter on October 19th and is no longer counsel of record. These filings, therefore, are ordered stricken from the record. Clerk of the court ordered to remove the pleadings from the electronic case file and the chronological case summary as being filed in error. So she says, you're not a lawyer here anymore. You quit. And I've ordered the court clerk to remove you.
And if you want to see these documents, you guys...
And remove the documents. She struck all of it from the record. Like, she took all of it out of the court filings.
Of.
And but she's also been doing this, like the memorandum.
Yep,
and apparently she's been doing it all illegally.
Yep.
All of it is illegal.
Yep. So there are a few things that I think is really important for us to highlight here. And this chain of paperwork is I forget what they call it. What do they call that? The history, the timeline or whatever, where every case has this timeline of occurrences, of events. And as paperwork comes in, it gets filed into the correct timeline of when it occurred. And that is never to be messed with. Like, things that get stricken from that, it should be so few and so far between that should never, ever, ever, ever happen. And what is interesting is she's backdating it to his verbal statement, or he didn't make a statement that he was quitting. She made a statement saying that he was submitting something later. So he never said it. And, or she's claiming he said it, or
we don't know for sure.
We don't know
Which
for
he
sure.
did request the audio, because it was taped. That whole conversation was taped. He requested it. That was one of the documents.
Great.
Yeah.
That should be. But where I was going with these documents, though, is we have all of them. You can no longer call the clerk and get these documents. They are on all of our social media. They are on YouTube. They're on our Twitter. They're on our Instagram. They're literally everywhere on all of our social media. So if you're curious to read all of them, you can go read them on there. Or if you want to hear us talk about it and read them, like Malia said, they are on the True Crime Talk Show. But that should not be messed with. That timeline, that history. I know there's a name for it, and I'm having an ADHD moment right now. I don't remember what it's called.
I think it's the electronic case file or something like that.
Something. But it should never be messed with. And then to hear that it's been altered and adjusted the entire time, that is not common for a judge to do. Just like her removing them is not common. So that relationship between an attorney who lives, like, they are the managers of the law. Let me put it this way. So if Rozzy stepped forward and offered services to Alan, the judge wouldn't even have a say in removing them. Like, that's how privileged that relationship is between attorney and client. The only reason she has a little baby smidgen of power to try and threaten them off the case is because she was the one who chose them.
They were court-appointed attorneys.
And she is the representative of that.
Right. She appointed them. It's super messed up.
Insane.
So David R. Hennessy, which is Baldwin, Andrew Baldwin, who was the other attorney that was on the defense counsel where the leaks came from, and who actually did say he was stepping down verbally, at least from what we know. His lawyer, Hennessy, came out with a document saying that the court issued the following order. Clerk of the Carroll Circuit Court ordered to remove Attorney Baldwin's and Rossi's as attorneys of record in this cause. And he's basically saying that what she's doing here is not okay, that it's illegal, that it shouldn't be happening, because this isn't the court clerk's job, or the county clerk. I'm sorry, county clerk. He says this is an elected position, elected by the people. She or he is a member of the executive branch of government, not judicial. So, and their job is to keep an accurate record of the court filings.
Yeah.
And no judge has the authority to oversee the clerk or order the clerk to alter the record of court filings. That isn't supposed to happen. And
that doesn't surprise
She's literally
me.
putting it in documents that she's doing it. She's recording her own illegal activity. It's so stupid. A judge may order sealings of filings only if she complies with access to court record rules, which Judge Gull has not. She has obtained a coerced and involuntary oral motion of Mr. Baldwin that withdrawal is nullity and invalid. I've never seen the word, like, null and void is what you should, for simplicity, whatever. So... and he lists, like, why it's invalid and stuff.
Sure.
He's basically saying there's no valid withdrawal. She can't just remove records like this. And that this is interfering with the attorney-client relationship.
Yes.
And was done outside of the presence of Richard Allen, the accused, and prejudices his substantial right to the effective representation of counsel, which I entirely agree.
Yep.
I entirely agree. I think this is egregious. I don't understand how... I just don't understand how they are going to get past this. Like, can an attorney appeal to a Supreme Court about a judge in a case?
Oh, absolutely. They can file a complaint to have the courts look into Judge Gull, but I assume that they're going to keep fighting. I think that based on everything that we've seen, they are bought into this case, and it is not about the money. I truly, based on what we're seeing, think they believe Richard Allen is innocent. Whether he is or isn't, that's not where I'm going with this. Where I'm going is just that it's important to look at how his lawyers have been fighting for him, and maybe the approach they took is super harsh, you know, and people are looking at this and like, oh my gosh, how could they say Colt, you know? But that's the approach they took, and if they aren't breaking the law, then we need to let them do their job. And to me, it is insane that you have a judge that is stepping all over the law because clearly she has some kind of bias here. I hope it's personal bias and not criminal. You know what I mean? Being suggested the direction the case should go. And you know, another interesting point, so these two attorneys have never had any complaint, have never had any disciplinary action, have never had anything bad said about them ever.
No.
And then she appoints two that do.
I know. So that's what I was going to bring up next. I also have an order issued here, but it's really long, so I think we should read it on stream when, you know, we have like time to go through it and really talk about it. But this order issue, I also find really interesting. In this, one thing that I saw that caught my attention is that she denied him being transferred. Yeah.
Wow.
Which is super messed up, in my opinion, considering the statements we have from the corrections officers who admitted to wearing the patches.
Yeah.
But yes, and I have the notice here where she appoints Robert C. Screamin? Scremin? It's a weird last name. It's just odd. It's an odd last name that I've never seen before. But she appointed him and one other attorney, which is William Labrado, as Richard Allen's new defense attorneys. And I haven't had time to really dig into their history, but I know I see a lot of rumors on the internet that these are not such great lawyers. But we'll see. I want to have official things before I like disparage somebody's name. That's what it feels like. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But I do have one thing here, and I saw this posted to Reddit. Somebody brought this up, and this is on Wayne.com. Fort Wayne attorney gives insight into Delphi developments, and this was posted November 29th, 2022, where in this video, he says, even if specific weapon, hasn't been fired, there's still an extractor that grabs the edge of that bullet, flips it out, and that process often, not always, but often leaves marks and dents. And those marks and dents can be very specific to the weapon it came out of. So even if it hasn't been fired, in a laboratory, they can go back, put a similar type of shell casing in it, the specific weapon, in a laboratory environment, eject the round, and then compare the two. So I think he thinks that evidence is very valid, which people are concerned about.
Yeah.
That because ever since that, it's called the magic bullet. Ever since that came out and people have really been looking into that, it seems that with the way guns are manufactured nowadays, they're almost perfect. They're not the way they used to be when they were made by hand. The little dents and marks left on the bullets, especially if it hasn't been fired through the chamber, guns are so uniform that there's not much differences. So it's not to the extent the way it was before, where it was like a fingerprint and it was like spot on. It's actually a lot harder, and there's a lot less differences nowadays.
Yeah.
Because of the manufacturing process. So, I've heard a lot of people saying that this one little bullet, other than that,
is the only evidence.
And him admitting to being there that day, which supposedly in a different time frame, that is the only evidence.
Yeah.
Period. Which is honestly not very strong.
No.
It's not very strong, considering that the property that Abby and Libby were found on, that man who owned that property, Ron Logan, had a gun which could have been connected also, possibly, because it took the same kind of bullets. So
Agreed.
I'd be curious, if they did these ballistics on that gun, would it be super similar too?
I have so many questions around this, and one of the interesting things is, when we first covered this, based on what we were reading and what we were seeing, we really, really, really thought it was Richard Allen. Now, I just don't know. I'm not willing to commit and say that, no, I think he's 100% innocent.
I'm not either.
I'm not willing to commit and say that I think he's 100% guilty. What I am willing to do is give the man a fair trial and allow the defense and the prosecution to continue investigating their case with an unbiased judge who is there to manage the case. What is going on here?
Isn't it kind of funny that Rossi files this motion for her to step down as judge, voluntarily withdraw from the case, which she kind of did to them. Like, he's kind of doing it back to her, which is kind of funny. Turn of events. Because it doesn't happen often where a defense attorney comes out and calls out a judge like this. She throws it out.
And she's not
her
supposed
own removal.
to.
No.
It's supposed to be left there as record.
Well, she throws it out, and she also strikes it from the record, basically, like this never happened.
Yeah.
Which is super, super, super messed up.
It is sus. It is sus for sure.
I know you also have some updates to this, which Brendan's going to bring up, next. So I'm not going to dive into some of those other things. But one thing that she did also do was a decorum order for the next hearing, October 31st, which is apparently when we're going to see these new attorneys.
2 days.
Yeah. So it's long. It's really long, this decorum order, okay? But some main takeaways, which I got from Fox 59, are the courthouse will be open at 8 a.m. All members of the public, including media, will be subject to metal detectors. Cell phones are permitted, but must be turned off, and no one will be permitted to stand in the courtroom. I don't know why. I don't know why she did this. I thought that was odd. What's up? Well, I don't. What? After all, A decorum order? I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't know.
But that also has to do with what you're going to talk about next, I think, because it talks about the no camera thing. Mm-hmm. I find that interesting. Mm-hmm. And Brennan's going to dig into that next. But this is just some quick updates on what's going on. I am frankly disgusted with this judge. I feel like it's a total abuse of power. I don't understand what her goal is here, because at this point, if he were convicted, I think he, in a heartbeat, could get this turned over.
Yeah, agreed.
There's clearly a lot of misconduct here.
Yes, there is.
And
yes,
honestly, at first, I was expecting it from the prosecutor, not the judge.
Yeah.
I was not expecting that.
I agree. Yeah.
So, anyway,
we'll keep our eyes on the case. Let us know what you guys think.
Let's keep our eyes peeled on this. This is incredibly important. And I know, there's other cases that are really interesting and get a lot of attention and people want to see, a lot of. This is one that we need to pay attention to, because I feel like this is a matter of, our justice system in this area of the country being in shambles. If this can happen, it is in shambles.
I agree.
This is rights being violated.
Yeah, it sure
is. It's important.
Laws being broken.
I want to hear your guys' opinion on this judge's conduct. What you think is going to happen. How are these attorneys going to battle this? Because they're saying, no, we are still his attorneys. We are.
I know.
That's what they're saying, basically.
And that's what I was saying earlier, is that client-attorney privilege is protected. A judge cannot just lightly, out of nowhere, come forward and be like, you know what? I don't like you as judges, so I'll figure it out. Or I'm sorry, I don't like you as attorneys, so I'll figure it out, and I'm going to appoint ones I do like. That is not how the justice system works. That is not how a defendant should have to manage that trial. That is completely one-sided and not okay, whether he's guilty or not.
Agreed.
If he's guilty, let's prove it.
Yeah. Right.
But
give him a fair trial,